Hey, everybody, welcome to the Patreon August in depth poll winning topic. And this month we have the channeling of a fairy race that was suggested by Drew. And we're going to go through that in a little bit. But also, a lot of people don't realize that this is actually going out live tonight and public tonight to both ET Whisper YouTube channels. A lot of people who have not had an opportunity to experience Patreon, we want to give them that opportunity to check out Patreon, to join. And sorry, my phone, unlike most of the time, my phone's actually still turned on. So let me turn that down a bit, guys. There we go. All right. So welcome Patreon and non-Patreon members alike. For all of you guys who are on Patreon, this is something that you guys voted for, something that you guys suggested. And for those of you who are not part of Patreon, this is what we do at usually on the 15th of each month. But this month was special because of my son's hospitalization and also my trip to New York and the trip I was supposed to take to Connecticut. So what you guys are getting is normally something we do just on Patreon and something we do on the 15th. And on the 30th, yesterday, we did our normal monthly thing, which we always do on the 30th, which was our Q&A, which is where people send in questions and ask Ardip or Treb one question each, and then they get pulled from the pile and asked. And last night it went really well, got a lot of good information out, and everything went super great. So welcome all, welcome one to the Patreon August channeling for the in-depth topic. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the topic is tonight more specifically. But for now, we're channeling a fairy race. Wendy says, hey, all excited for tonight. Last night's Q&A was phenomenal. Thank you, Wendy, for being here. Jay, hello. Sounds exciting. Nate Zim, one of our patrons. Hello, all. Ever since Art told me that fairies were responsible for the bizarre disappearances and return of some crystals, I've always wanted to know more. And Chase, who is also Drew, the one who suggested tonight's topic, that ended up winning by quite a bit. We had 50% votes out of all the votes we had for Patreon. 50% of them chose this one, and we usually don't have one that's that high. So it's an amazing thing. He and Chase says, hi, I'm very excited as well. I agree with Wendy. Artist answers last night helped a lot, and I also benefited from hearing the answers, as always. Wonderful. I love to hear that. And sorry, guys, you will hear a little bit of Lily upset and crying in the back. Kalina's trying to put her down. It was a weird night for Kalina and Lily. They ran to the store and had some crazy person screaming at them at the top of their lungs. So it took them a long time for the police to get down there and all that stuff. The fun of living in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the wonderful city that we're from. So welcome, everybody. I also want to welcome everyone who's not here from Patreon. Tracy says, thank you for the Patreon. Glad your son's okay. And the Q&A last night was great. Wonderful to hear. Deborah, part of our Patreon group. Hello, hello. And John, who is also a part of our Patreon. But for those of you who don't know him or didn't meet him last night, John is the one who's always responsible for the graphics that we have here. He helps put the coursework together. He basically does everything with the courses except for the channeling. He's done the websites for the channel panel and ET Whisper, and as well as Jason doing them for the channel panel. So John is a big part of our work, and he's also here tonight to co-host with us tonight, and he was last night, which was an amazing Q&A last night. Welcome, John. Thank you, brother, for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be able to join you.
It's always great to be able to connect, brother. And I know we connect a lot behind the scenes. We're always doing something or working on something or got something moving in the normal way of things. When we're doing the weekly galactic channelings and then monthly galactic channelings, all of that, you did the art, you did the videos, you did the graphics, the motion graphics. You also did the subtitles and worked all of that out. So you do a lot of work for the ET Whisper, and some people don't have a chance to know you, and it's really great that people get a chance to connect with you and meet you and connect with your energies. Thank you for being here, brother.
Of course, my pleasure.
Excuse me. If you could tell everybody a little bit about who you are and the kind of work that you do. I mean, I know you have a lot of things that you are energetically involved in and things that you work on and stuff, but can you tell everybody a little bit about just who you are and the QHHT work? I know on Patreon people got to hear this last night, but for people on the main channel who have not got to hear that, who are a guest of the Patreon crew tonight, please share.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, as Rob said, one of the things I do is I'm a certified QHHT practitioner. So that's the quantum healing hypnosis technique that was created by Dolores Cannon. So that's taking people into a very deep state of trance where they can access really their entire soul memory. And it's very transformative work. The folks who tend to come to me would usually be identified as what people would refer to as starseeds. And yeah, I just had a session today, actually. So I'm getting a lot of, I'm in this frequency a lot this weekend between last night and tonight, and our second galactic ambassador course launching tomorrow. So it's been a kind of a great stretch of time here. Yeah, and as Rob has said, I've known Rob for about 2.5 years, and we resonate very well. Obviously, I have a ton of respect for what Rob does, the clarity of his channel. I've been on the spiritual path forever, and I've had, I think, some similar experiences to a lot of folks here in terms of ET contact and the interest in the kind of spiritual path and channeling and out-of-body work and the Monroe Institute, and kind of been involved in all of that. So this is a very natural excitement for me, and having the opportunity to, channel some of this imagery and the galactic channelings. Sometimes they're kind enough to describe what they look like, and sometimes I just have to tune into that. And also channel light language, created a light language deck a couple of years ago, and been integrating that in activations into the Galactic Ambassador course. And so, yeah, this is always excited about the work that Rob and I are able to do together, and supporting getting this really amazing information from Ardif and Trib and all of the phenomenal beings who really honor us by coming through. So, yeah, it's been a fantastic experience, and I'm very grateful for it.
When you say that you're integrating your light language into the not just the Galactic Ambassador course, but through all of our courses, you've been able to channel kind of either some direct light encodements or light language, or some light symbols, which are all kind of the same, light language in general. But I don't think a lot of people know that the imagery that they're seeing is actually channeled stuff, and it's done from you. And you had a friend who did one light language for us, I think, for one of the courses. And what was her name? Marianne?
Marianne, yeah.
Marianne. Sorry, I always mess. You know how bad I am with names. So
Yeah.
Marianne. But the rest of it you did. And so can you kind of describe for people what the experience is of pulling that in, and kind of how you receive it?
Yeah, I mean, light language started to come in a few years ago, and I was able to take a course with a woman named Jamie Price, who's one of the keynotes at the upcoming channel panel. And Jamie's obviously channels a group called Arion, which are the Lyran Council of Time. And light language, Jamie was one of the first people on the planet that light language first started coming through. And I always kind of screw up her story, but she's got a fantastic book on light language, and she's a phenomenal human lion being, higher dimensional. And yeah, so light language is kind of be described as the language of the soul, and it is comes through symbols, physical signing, and through voice channeling as well. and it's a multi-dimensional kind of stream of energy. So, and it's actually transferred directly through your higher self and directly into your energy body. So it actually bypasses your mind. So it's working really directly with you. The other really amazing thing I found is your higher self. So if you think of a light language stream as this multi-layered stream of information, your higher self is literally tapping into that light language stream and pulling out the aspects that are most relevant for you. So um, it's very unique for each person. It's very unique each time you actually hear the same transmission, and it is incredibly activating, very powerful, very healing. And the fact that it is bypassing it's kind of the mind chatter and going directly into your heart, into your body, your light body, your energetic system. Yeah, it's very phenomenal. And there are generally 3 different types of light language categories. There's galactic, angelic, and elemental. So the fairy race, for example, would be an example of elemental light language. They generally speak that, and they have the different feeling and energy. And folks generally experience it depending on how you receive energy. If you tend to be like me, more clairsentient, I experience light language as a physical sensation a lot. Some people will use their clairaudience and have, that's activating the sound pathways. Sometimes it's, the clairvoyance where they're getting imagery and stuff. So, yeah, it's really pretty unique, and definitely more available on the planet now. I mean, it's always been available. And I think the last fascinating thing is when you tune into these light language, it's kind of outside of time in some ways as well. So you might be, and as Jamie taught us, you might be, tapping into a light language stream from an ancient Lyran race or a future Pleiadian Arcturian race. And that's another very fascinating part of it as well.
I had Jamie on the show, and I've actually had a lot of light language people on the live show that I will get back to doing here in the next couple of weeks here. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour, which you have to go to your live tab to see on the YouTube channel. But I've had her, Jamie Price, and a lot of other light language practitioners on, Wendy Kennedy. Actually, one of the first people I ever met who did light language, Lola Singer, I had her on the show and we're talking about it. And she was the first person I ever heard the word light language from. And it wasn't even heard as that word. It was something that Treb had said. And I had never heard of it before. So I do understand a lot of people receive that in a lot of different ways. And it's interesting to hear all the different ways that you just shared, because I know, the clairsentient way, I experience it as a very energetic thing in my body, and then I experience sometimes downloads if the channel is really good, and some of them are really mental for me. Like I love Wendy Kennedy's because it sounds like different types of ET languages that I've heard or similar to the ones I've heard before. So they all have these unique characteristics and energetics that I really appreciate, and I'm really glad that Jamie is a part of my sphere and my zone now, and I really am glad that I got a chance to meet her quite a few times at this point. She's really great, and I want to say thank you guys, all of you guys who are joining. I know some of you are just getting in. This is normally our Patreon in-depth topic, and it's brought by people making suggestions, those suggestions going into a poll, and the poll getting voted on. Tonight's topic is channeling a fairy and connecting to that energy. And this was actually a 50% vote. Like half the people who voted for this ended up, or half of the total people who voted for this one topic, which is unusual and very high percentage. So this should be a really good one. That's why we decided to share it publicly. It had a lot of votes, so a lot of excitement for it. And I think Drew is actually becoming quite good at getting what he wants on the poll. Manifesting that, because there's been about 2 or 3 I can remember now that Drew suggested in the short time that he's been with us. Not short time, he's been with us for several months, but short time compared to the uh, 8, 9, 7, 8 years of archives that we've got. And he's been able to suggest things that a lot of people vote for. So I really am excited to see this one too. So, all right, guys, I am going to start getting ready to channel. And we're going to channel, we often channel, 20 to 40 minutes. And then John will be taking questions that he gets when he's listening to the channeling. Any insights that he has that he might ask about, he might pull some questions from the chat, depending on if he doesn't have questions or if he thinks something that's someone else is asking is very valid or good. We're not necessarily going to take questions from the chat, but you can always put them there. And if John sees them and likes them, he can definitely ask those. And then we're going to get as in-depth about this topic. That's the whole reason we do this, and the reason that we have people make the suggestions. We want to do Patreon channeling for the people at Patreon. So that's why we want them to suggest all these different things. I think this month we actually voted on, let me see, we voted on several topics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different topics that were suggested by everyone in Patreon. And then one of them gets chosen, and this is it. So, all right, John, I'm going to let you hang out with everyone. Can you share a little bit with everybody kind of what the topic is about, and more in depth what Drew shared about that topic, and kind of the interest and things that he was excited to hear about during this channeling?
I would be delighted to.
Thank you, brother.
So yeah, Drew's question was, I picked Channel of Fairy, as it's my understanding they mostly reside in the density in which we are heading to, the 5th. But I'm sure it's a gradient and we like categorizing. So I'm curious how they see where they are in comparison to us, or the differences from us. Drew would like to know what they look like. Do they, or did they at one point have wings or light wings? Does the folklore on Earth, Terra Gaia, come from them? Do they help and interact with us? Are they sometimes confused for angels? So these are just some of his curiosities, but any direction they want to go and talk about should be fun. If anyone has any deeper questions or items they would like to hear about from the fairy realm, feel free to comment and ask me this evening, John, and we can combine them all into a nutshell topic or overview questions. So yeah, that's what we've chosen. My experience is if there is a specific topic, the races will usually come in and talk about that, but they certainly have free reign to share whatever they feel is most relevant and helpful. So please do, as Rob said, these usually go 20 to 30 to 40 minutes, and then we have a chunk of time after to ask some clarifying questions or anything that you're excited or inspired to ask about. So please submit those in the chat. I know when William is hosting, he usually encourages folks to have folks choose on YouTube the live chat instead of the top chat. The live chat will show the entirety of the stream of chats. So that's usually a good practice, but we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. And also for folks who haven't heard, and this is a bit of a pitch, but our second Galactic Ambassador course launches tomorrow. If you look in the description under this video, there's a link and there's an early bird special through tomorrow evening. So this is where we're bringing 4 different galactic races through to share their perspectives and information with us. And then they've been giving us very specific techniques on how best to connect with them. The first experience involved the Yael, Arcturian, Andromedan, and Syrian races. The ambassador from the Pleiades his name was Desriald. The Arcturian ambassador was Shrey Ra. The Andromedan race we connected with were the Amun-Ra Aniyan, and the Syrian race that we connected to, or at least the ambassador's name was Katakulkra. And these are all races that have been working with Earth and humanity for many tens of thousands of years. So it was very much like a family reunion, and our next version of that iteration starts tomorrow with the first being named Wani Strati, who is a Yael contact specialist. So if you're excited about that and feel compelled, we would love for you to join us.
Yeah, and if you do end up joining us while we're doing it live for the next 4 weeks, you can actively participate with the Q&A. The way that we do those, we drop one video for the message that they share, one video for the technique that they share, and then we drop also usually transcripts of that for people who prefer written, or for people who have hearing problems or something. And then there's also time to write questions underneath that post, and then boom, when you write the questions, then John will ask those to the being that I had channeled at that time, and then the recording of that will be dropped in a few days after we do that. So every week you'll get a channeling that we've already done, and then questions to your answers for the being that you guys heard. So if you join in the next 4 weeks, you can participate in that. If you join now, you can participate with all 4 of the entities. If you join 2 weeks from now, you can do with the last 2. But yeah, we will be running that. And even after the course is over, we will have it available for people, but you won't be able to participate. I also noticed a bunch of people dropping questions for the fairy entity in the chat already. If you guys can hold off on those, that way John won't have to scroll back through all the comments between here and there. I know our chat is always active, which is awesome, and I always love that. And please keep that going. But when the entity starts wrapping up, they usually will say, we're ready for questions, or they'll just stop talking. And that's the time to get all your questions out in the chat. And if John sees any of those questions pertinent to the conversation, he'll throw those in. And yeah, guys, I'm going to take another drink or two and we can jump in. Thank you again, brother, for being here. I know William has been helping us for multiple years doing this. He's at a point of his life right now where he is very much catching up on work, trying to make less work for him long run, but he's also doing a lot of work for his family. And that's where he's been at this week. And John's been so great to step in yesterday and today. So I really appreciate you, brother. And for all the work that you do with ET Whisper, the courses, the art, the websites, everything that you've done has been amazing. And I'm really glad that we were able to connect. And I appreciate everything you do for us here.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And, as Art might say, it's truly my highest excitement to do it. So it's been an awesome journey.
Well, I appreciate it too, brother. And thank all of you guys who are here. Like I said, you guys are amazing. I'm glad that this one was such a high level of excitement from our Patreon people. And our Patreon people are very generous. Most of them don't care if we share parts of our stuff with the public or share like a whole live stream with our public. So I want to thank all of you guys for Patreon. You guys pay to get this content here. So thank you guys for being okay with me sharing it with the public, because this one seemed to be really lighting a fire of excitement. So I figured that excitement can be for everybody. So give me one more second, guys. I'm going to take one more drink of water and we'll jump in. And I saw that. Don't forget to press the like button. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. You guys already know I've been saying it in all of my videos when I've been doing the galactic channelings, and whenever I come in before the video. Likes and subscribing always help. Right? I assume all of you are subscribed who are here. That's why you're here, especially with the unannounced live stream, except for our Patreon people. But Yeah, likes help, comments help, live stream chat helps. All that stuff makes them know. What's really going to help the channel start growing again is when we get regular uploads, and I'm really trying to work it to the point now where we're doing enough of the coursework with enough awesome topics so that the 3 email questions can be pushed to the side. That takes up so much of my time and energy of channeling, and I only have a couple hours a day to work. So if we can get that pushed to the back, then we can focus on once per week Patreons, which would be really amazing for our Patreon people, and also something extra for people who want to jump in every few months or whatever. Also, our Patreon guys, it does have 7 days free trial, and you get almost 8 years, or maybe more than 8 years of archives. That's 2 channelings minimum per month for 8 years. So there's over 100 plus. I'm not good at math in my head, but 8 times 12, so 120 some, 130 some different channelings that have never been made public, or only little pieces and parts have been made public. And you can get access to all of that on a free trial, 1 week, a free trial. And then if you want to stay on, you stay on. It's $22 per month. And if not, you can also check out lots of cool archives. And I appreciate you guys for being here, Patreon or not. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you too, brother. I appreciate you, John, and Kalina. If you're listening, you're probably not listening yet, but thank you for taking care of Lily. And I know it was a rough night for you, so I love you too, Sunshine. And also, good news, everybody. My wife, the beautiful sunshine of my heart and life, just got over 1,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel, and she is so excited. She busted through that barrier last night and went from 999 to about 1,015 just in one night. So that was awesome. All right, guys. Love you guys. One more drink, and then we're jumping in to channel a fairy race. A fairy race, the fairy race. I don't know. I know Artif and Trev have described that there are a few different types of beings that humans call fairy, but we'll see what they say. All right, guys, have fun. Love you guys. Again, John, I love you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you guys, and we'll see you on the other side. Greetings to all. This is Artif. That is ARITIF, and this is its spell. We understand all of you desire to speak directly with and to an entity that is a fairy consciousness. And of course, before diving in to that co-creation, we must express the 2 things in our own perspective that are vitally important in the co-creation at hand, and in all co-creations as well. First, above and beyond all things that are expressed in this day, to know, to feel, and to perceive that you are loved in our perspective is of the utmost importance. Secondly, it is our greatest excitement, and within the same form of great excitement in which we co-create with you, not only in this moment, but throughout moments of co-creation and engagement of co-creation, despite the experience and feeling of that linear time as well. Now, as we are speaking to fairy consciousness, Rob is correct in his own perspective that there are, in fact, many different races that humans understand or know as fairy beings. First of all, there are the Ferroki. These entities are higher dimensional consciousness that exist upon Earth. These entities have co-created with humans for a very long time, but not originally from Earth. These entities are part of your collective Earth experience. Now, there are also entities that, for lack of better terms, would be known as elemental consciousness, and many humans perceive these beings as fairies, even though they are not elemental consciousness manifest as a singular entity, but more so a collective consciousness of elemental energy that becomes large enough to encompass the consciousness of one being, and those beings are, of course, the manifestation of that localized collective. Therefore, we call them the elemental co-create collective consciousness of that local region. And of course, these beings are perceived as fairy beings. These beings can be perceived as multitudes of those figures understood and known by your lore and history, and these entities have been called gnomes, dwarves, etc. Now, of course, there are also other beings who are avian and avian human hybrid that are perceived as fairy beings because they look very human and hold wings, and these beings are consciousnesses that are not directly related to Earth in that co-creation, although entities that worked with Elohim back into your early historical moments of the first creation. An iteration of human consciousness turned to second and second to third and third to fourth. Those that were Elohim brought forward consciousnesses that were avian in nature. Some of these entities have spoken directly to you through Rob himself and many other humans. The entity that you know as Ramael, who have spoken to through Rob's energy and co-creation with us, are one of these beings who are the avian variety that worked with Elohim and ancestrally related to those beings. Yet here we are deciding which version of those fairies and which to co-create. But in our perspective, when we hear that term, fairy consciousness, especially when speaking of the Earth collective consciousness, those that are known as the Ferroki are the first that we would reach to. So in fact, we will bring forward an entity of the Ferroki. One moment. And now the fun will begin. Welcome to experiencing a fairy, a real fairy inside your space, and your space is in mine. I want to first share that Artif shares his perspective, and while we respect that perspective, it isn't quite accurate. We are Ferroki, we were known as that. We are still the same race, but our DNA has changed. Now we're more of Earth than we ever were from our previous places. We had been to 3 different planets before coming to Earth, but we have lived here now for longer than we were able to live in any other place with planets of consciousness that were moving around. So when we lived in the very first planet we were born in and left that planet, from that time until now, we've spent more time on Earth and with Earth than we did the other places put together. So this is something important for you to know. We consider ourselves earthly. Our DNA has changed because we've been here so long. We have Earth DNA inside of us. And I know the word Earth DNA sounds funny to some of you because the classifying of DNA doesn't work like that for you. Some of you say DNA is singular. It only works one way for one race or one type of being. But also, that's incorrect. Everything that lives on Earth now has a core DNA that's shared with all things. This is from the very smallest beings on Earth that have DNA to the higher dimensional consciousnesses and higher matrical consciousnesses, all the way up to the archangel energy that humans call archangel. So all of those things have the same thread of DNA, and that's because it started from Earth. We didn't start from Earth, but we've been here long enough to receive that. This is a universal tag. This is a universal and galactic tag. If we left Earth and stayed gone from Earth for any time less than what we've been here, they would still be able to look at our DNA and say, these beings have at least spent large quantities of time on Earth or came from Earth because they have Earth DNA. So understanding the fact that a planet has its own consciousness, so why wouldn't it have its own DNA? It's a shared thing through all beings, all species, animals, plants, everything. Water life, bacteria, um, mm, mm, fungi, and all of the other algae and vertebrates, invertebrates, all of them. So there are many things to share. The first is that we do work with humans all the time. We have worked more with humans than even most extraterrestrial races have. We live here with you. We're saturated here with you. We're one dimension higher than you are. So we live in the same dimension as the Earth reptilian beings. They know about us and they don't hate us, but they don't welcome us into their dwellings either. They see us for a part of what we are. And another thing we would say, and something that's important for you to know, Ardip's perspective, again, is slightly different than ours. We are linked to elemental consciousness. We are strongly linked to that elemental consciousness. We spent so much time inside of that elemental consciousness. This is what helped evolve us to have the Earth DNA, perhaps faster than many beings might if they weren't connecting with the Earth while they're here. We know that there are many races and types of beings that have come to Earth and lived on Earth for hundreds of years, thousands of years in some cases, and those beings still don't have Earth DNA. And that's because they don't want to be here necessarily, or they feel that they have to be here necessarily. And that means that they're not integrating into the Earth. So, although we know why this being might have that perspective, and we don't take offense to that perspective, we disagree very strongly that we are just as Earth based as you are. And we also want to share a great deal of our interactions with you. So many humans who are finding their own consciousness and looking at the parts of their consciousness that can expand. And when many beings are using hallucinogenic medicines, then these beings are starting to feel us. Beings who work on meditation or consciousness rising, these beings actually connect with us. Many times we have connected other beings to humans. There are many humans who have had experiences with the God molecules, and during the God molecule, they are feeling and perceiving other consciousnesses, dragons, elves, all of these different earthly type consciousnesses that aren't here in your physical plane of your time right now. Some were ancient and don't exist on Earth anymore. Some are symbolic. Others are existing, but without a reason or desire to connect with humans the way that you want them to connect with you. So we do that for you. We bring their consciousness directly to you because we are quite neutral. Many humans think that we are very good or very bad, but we are all things. We've been on Earth long enough to have that Earth DNA, so that means we have the same spectrum of possible emotions, possible thoughts that you do. There are some of us who don't like working with other consciousnesses. They prefer to be by themselves. Sometimes humans still find them because humans are very psychic when you set yourself aside and put your consciousness to connecting. So many of you humans have that ability and have that consciousness and still find the ones of us that don't want to speak to you. I like speaking with you. I've worked with many humans, many times, hundreds of different humans, just in the past 5 year span of time. Now, our time feels much different than your time. It has to. We live in a different dimension than you. Our physics are less restricted than yours, but we still feel connected to that linear time through the cycles of time. So we can feel your now and present moment, and we meet you in that now and present moment. But we're also working with human beings who worked with elements 1,000 years ago, and we're doing that right now in our time. But your time, it seems like 1,000 years ago. So it's very important to have some of these differences in the way that humans think and share their emotion and thoughts about us, and compare that to what is really happening with the co-creation. Now, some humans approach us very differently. Some see us as the humanoid consciousness or human-like consciousness, but having higher ability, and that's not true. Yes, we're humanoid, but we're not human beings. We're not evolved or mastered beings. We're not any type of Earth human besides the humanoid being that we are now living in Earth. So we didn't have lineage directly connected to yours. The only DNA that we share is the Earth strand of DNA, the Earth anchor of DNA. So many beings that humans do know do have some lineage connection. We have a lineage that goes back into the Pleiades and connects to some of the humanoid races that work with humans right now. So these beings who work with humans who are from the Pleiades, who look like humans, these are shared ancestors with us. This is why many humans mistake us for Pleiadian or call Pleiadian beings fairies, because you recognize that shared experience. Um, there have never been wings. We have never had wings, the same type of wings that you think, but we do manifest quickly and we manifest well. So the types of beings of us that prefer the element of air consciousness, we are the ones that most humans see with wings. Sometimes we create wings for flight, but that's for fun. This is something that we all do. We all have excitement all of the time. We all have fun all of the time. So there is a perspective that we are jovial and playful, and some of us are, but all of us are having fun, even the serious ones of us, and even the ones that concentrate just on the things that want to happen. So the energy of all of the experiences that humans perceive us compared to what we are, what we have, is quite different. The wings may be perceived or overlaid on top of what you perceive because you associate fairies with wings. So you'll create the wings when meeting us sometimes. Sometimes we have energetic wings that we have created for fun, or actual wings that we can manifest for fun. But it's when we're working with that air element of consciousness mostly. Other of you have seen us in mermaids and mermen, and have felt fairy energy behind mermaids and mermen. But this energy is only you're seeing the water elemental consciousness with us. So you're projecting that with us, even though some of us who work with the water elements do go into the water and create better appendages to swim through the webbed fingers and toes. So, yes, some of you perceived us as Bigfoot. And yes, the earth and woods types of beings of us that exist that work with that earth element, yes, you may feel us like that Bigfoot or Sasquatch being, because our energy, when we're working with the earth consciousness, the earth element of earth consciousness, then yes, we would feel very similar to them. And then the fire. The fire is the other element left. Some of you see light beings in the sky, flashes of red fire in the sky, and often that's associated not with a fairy consciousness, but with UFOs. Sometimes when you see a falling star or fireball in the sky, what you're seeing is one of us who's working with the fire elemental consciousness. So there are many different things that we do work with that humans disassociate or humans over associate and project onto us. There are so many things that are consciously connected to the human perspective of us, and we could spend beyond the amount of time you could spend with us on talking just about that. So I want to make sure I'm asking you as humans, what do you want to know about us?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask those questions. Is there a particular, and it's possible at your level of development that you don't use names, but is there a name we could refer to you as?
Yes, and if you want to use a name for my consciousness, then just call me Dianda.
Dianda.
Yes,
Oh,
I love the name, and the sounds also are very personal to me.
wonderful. I wonder if you could speak some more about the Earth DNA. We've had some other races come through, and that was a fairly new term to me. But when you mentioned that, and they said a similar thing, that I think they used a very similar term of almost a stamp or a marker that races who have integrated and chosen to assume Earth DNA have. Could you talk about some of the characteristics of Earth DNA and what it means when a particular consciousness or group consciousness chooses to take on that DNA?
I can. The characteristics are just what you would expect. What beings that live on Earth do. The beings who live on Earth do have the Earth energy, and the Earth energy is being able to experience every possible experience down the spectrum of a scale. And that scale deals with a lot of different things. Most of it is emotion scale, some of it is mental scale, others are belief scales, action scales, other scales. And that is the basic format of the characteristics. Now, the DNA itself, It's something that would not be noticed by humans in the scientific community, because you just see the double helix, you just see different markers and different genetic coding. But the helix structure itself, the way it's built, is that code. So the way you see that human DNA works, even though it could look extremely similar to another race, the way that it's built, the helix doubled structure, the twisting, all of that can look extremely similar to another race on another planet, but the overall build of the DNA is different. And the coding comes in the overall shape, size, um, twisting, actual energy physically, but you have nothing to compare it to yet. So there won't be something that can be noticed for quite some time until humans are able in public to study the structures of off-world DNA. So that part of the DNA is the physical structure, but energetically, the importances are much more clear there. This is where the features and the characteristics come into hand, and this is what defines the Earth-based beings. We know that this group of humans specifically, the ones that are connected to channeled state consciousness and entities of extraterrestrial nature. So all of you guys have a very strong sense of understanding that different consciousnesses occur in the universe, and also that Earth has multiple consciousnesses still living. You only know about one that is in your dimension and also at the evolution pattern, and that's other humans. But many humans don't know that there are many, many others. So you guys have a good perspective on that. You understand this basic group here understands that there are reptilian beings who have been on Earth longer than you have, who are still very much an active, participating race of beings that live on Earth and dwell on Earth. There's also understanding and then there are Sasquatch beings that live and have lived on Earth and were born and spawned from Earth. So, two races right there. And this specific group of humans have understanding because of this human and the beings he works with. They have given you access to these types of beings. So now you notice that two different races that came from Earth, that live on Earth, that exist inside of Earth, have very different sides to them. They have this wonderful side that is open and loving. They have a very reserved side that doesn't want to communicate outside of themselves. And they also have the things that are structured in staggered between that. So, yes, there are beings who slightly care about humans, slightly don't care about humans, very much don't care for humans, very much like humans, indifferent to humans, and all of the different positionings. If you take your ruler and put it across the board, you can mark every mark from one side to the other, and all of that lives in Earth. That's a very unique thing. That's how Earth consciousness works, and the DNA manifest that way, so that the personality traits, the possibilities in the soul's ability to live in a body and grow either way or any direction or change directions in mid-flight, those are all important things, and that's part of the DNA. It helps allow that to happen.
Thank you so much for explaining that.
Mm. Yeah, it's okay. This is why I am excited to come and speak with all of you now, because these things are important for humans to feel and to know and to understand a bit more.
Absolutely. There's a lot of questions from folks who are co-creating with us about how we can interact and have relationships with you. And I'm wondering if You could share a little bit about how you work with humans, how those who desire and are excited about co-creating with you, how they, some ways in which they could do that. And I also wonder, um, as you're in a higher dimension, can you manifest and work with matter in our dimension?
So yes, all of the questions I'll do my best to answer, but the physical things in your dimension, yeah, we can work with and use and play with, and um, our actions can actually affect the actions of the particles and physical parts of yourself and your own dimension. Yes, but the connection process, this is different for every being. Every being has to find a way to connect. We are always there and always available for humans. So them finding a way to connect to us is going to be different. You experience Earth differently, and from the human who I'm speaking through, and both of you experience it differently from the other beings who listen right now. So differently is how connections have to happen. But if you just want to be within the energy, just open yourself to be in that energy, because we're there and because we're close and because we're present, that will help. So I'll tell you some stories. I'll give you three different examples. One example, there is a being who, in your time now, in the last year, who lives in the area of Sweden. And this being is very psychic and very open, but doesn't know that she's very psychic. And she works to expand her feelings and her mind. So when she was out in the woods and was feeling nature, that's when I first connected to her. At that time, she had a strong affinity for dragons and a strong affinity for tigers and a strong affinity for the long necked animals, giraffes. So, all of those things were something that were very exciting for her. For whatever reason, those three types of beings were exciting. And these beings aren't in nature. One of them doesn't exist physically the same way. So this being felt missing those parts of nature to her and wanted to explore those animals and the consciousnesses. So at the time, she sat down and just sat in the woods and closed her eyes and tried to feel the breeze and the air and feel the moisture in the air and feel the ground and the earth. And at that time, I simply connected more deeply to her consciousness. And when I did that, she felt a presence but didn't understand what it was. So I tried to project some of these things inside of her mind, the giraffe and the dragon, and connect to the feline cat energies. And I tried to place those symbols in her head. She couldn't receive them as visuals, but she felt the energy. She felt a very strong reptilian energy. So she just started thinking, wow, I feel very strongly a connection to dragons. And to this day, she doesn't know why, she doesn't know how, but she just felt that. And that helped her connect with the reptilian being that has also worked with her. And it wasn't a connection where she could hear the voice. It wasn't a connection she could speak to this being, but it was a connection she could actually feel the emotion of this being. So this helped her expand and grow. Another example, but one that was from conscious decision. This came from being in the North Dakota region of your United States area. And this was 4 years before in this time. This being was consciously working to open his own consciousness. And he also wanted to learn to astral project. So this being spent a great deal of time reading books, studying online, watching videos about astral projection, and started using two things: the um, mushroom, and I cannot remember the proper name for it for you. Um, the hallucinogenic type of mushroom.
The psilocybin.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, psilocybin, and also took a DMT. And both times I was able to meet this being with the mushroom. This being only could feel an external consciousness hovering over his consciousness and hovering inside the field, and couldn't get out of his body, but started to lift out of the body. But the fear frightened him backward. With the DMT, he had no choice but to leave instantly from his body. And once he was gone from the body, he saw me. Now, the way he saw me was as an angel, because I am one of the beings who works with water and air mostly, and felt my consciousness like an angel. So to this day, this being believes that he met an angel, and also that that was the presence that was there the time before with the mushrooms. And since then, he keeps calling on his angel, and I will come because I'm that angel that he thought. The third example is one with a very conscious connection, even beyond the last. This being understood that there are fairies in earth and consciousness of fairies in earth, and this being spoke directly to ask for fairy consciousness. And this being was 6 months ago in time and lives in southern Mexico. And this being called on my consciousness strongly, not mine alone, but our consciousness, and I was within that area, and I instantly came to connect. And at that time, he had no strong third eye ability and no visualizing ability, not very strong. Better than many humans, but not strong as in the detail that he would be required to see the actual version of myself. Give me a minute so I can help this human with water.
Of course.
So this being was able to see me more clearly than he had ever seen anything before. And this led this being to be able to connect more. So after that, doing meditation, connecting, feeling into the energy. Eventually, this being was able to channel me 2 times, and he quit after that because it scared him. He did not think that channeling my consciousness was something he would do, but it came quite quickly because of the repetition of connection. And this energy was very helpful for him. Although it scared him, he scared himself of his own powers. So all three of these are different ways that we work with humans, but some are even more subtle than that. Some are just the energy of happiness and joy when out in nature, that's added to their natural happiness. And some are more deep, like me speaking right now through a human being directly to you. So there is all sorts of ways that we can work with humans.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for those 3 examples. It's incredibly helpful to see the different ways that folks have connected with you. Are there, who is able to perceive you? I'm sure it's not all the time, but are animals or pets able to perceive you? Are infant human children able to perceive you, and how do they perceive you when they're able to see through that dimensional veil?
Yes, and this question is a very good question because most of the beings who are young children, who are at the age before they are able to speak most often, also very old people after they lose their ability to speak and are out of their body more. And also the animal beings, most animal beings are able to perceive us. Now, some of that is seeing us, and those that have gifts or the third eye is open can see us similar to the way we are, but most beings will see us as a light orb or a light person, a figure that's made of light. I know humans often see shadow beings. We would be light beings. So the opposite of shadow beings. And the beings who are most able to see us are usually in those groups. Also, many humans who are not mentally built the same way as most humans. Some of these people would be handicapped, considered by other humans as mentally deficient of some sort, or having some type of damage to their self. But they're not. They're only seeing into different versions of reality. They are often able to see us very similar to how we are, also, or extreme light. Now, some of the beings who are animals only see a light outline of the light, so they are only seeing a vague shape. Others are seeing light with great features, similar to the shadow beings that humans see. Some see only black, others see faces and details built in the black. So it's very similar to that. And some humans who are highly psychic, who have a very strong third eye ability, who work with their third eye a lot and practice, these beings can see us mostly as light beings, but some can see us very detailed. So, yes, these types of groups are able, any human could if they worked to tune into that. But you, as this specific group of fairly knowledgeable humans about things outside of your physical reality, already know that some of you can see things others can't. So, all of you tuning into the energy of a higher dimension could see us. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. You had, there's a couple of quick questions. One individual asked whether you consume food, and if you do, whether you personally have any favorite foods that you eat.
No, there's not a consumption of food how humans do. No, there is a drinking of liquidated water. So, drinking natural water, water from streams, from lakes, from glaciers, any source of water from Earth is able to be drank. Even salinated water, salt water, we are able to drink that. Nutrients come just from being on the Earth and touching the ground, and the intake of the nutrients of solar energy. So there isn't, but we have been able to eat food for joyous purposes. We see the food that humans like. So this is also a very personal thing. There are some beings that I know who work in manifesting a lower dimensional body just to eat junk food from humans, sugars, candies. Others who enjoy different various dishes of humans from around the earth. So they will either create it in our dimension or create a lower body to go and actually taste the food there. So there are different versions of that, but that's only for fun. It's not for any purpose of sustaining our health. This is one of the differences with beings who are born and develop on Earth only to beings who come to Earth afterwards. We don't have to use that cycle. I'm looking for the word in this human's head. It's a very horrible word to describe, and his word that he chooses is parasitical, a cycle, and I don't like that word, but it is accurate to the way energy works on Earth, where consuming certain things to survive are often done with living beings. Vampiric is another word he uses. What horrible word choices he would use. But yes, it encompasses the energy well enough. So yes, we, because we didn't start on Earth, don't have to participate with that.
We'll try to find some different vocabulary if we have the honor of communicating with you again in this way.
Yes, I will also do research. The energy of my location is normally in the southern regions of North America or Central America. So the energy of Spanish or Portuguese would be easier to translate than English, even though it is not hard to do English. Just this human's perspective on how the earth works, it is very realistic, but it's also very strongly brutal. He sees the earth as brutal, and yes, it is, and I understand why he sees it that way. But that's a very intense way to see Earth. Yes.
And could I ask about, there's obviously some intense things. I know you are not experiencing time as you shared in the same way that we are, but how do you experience things like wars or some of the denser energies as we're working through those on the collective? Is that something that permeates into your dimensional experience of Earth?
Yes, everything on Earth permeates to our experience, and we feel, and we understand, and we see. Um, Most of us only work with the humans who are dealing with suffering that go through there. There are some of the beings who work with darker human beings, and they have darker perspectives. They don't harm humans or engage in war, but they do understand the darkness that humans have inside of them and work with the humans regardless of how dark the humans are. So yes, war is felt by all of us. We understand it. We can tune humans out if we desire. There are some who are so sensitive that war would be almost an allergy to their senses, so they tune those parts of the world out. And I know that there is an assumption that by tuning out things that are hard or difficult to deal with, that you're ignoring them. And that is truth to that, yes. But some beings just can't exist in that hostility. It's too much for them. So we have the option to stay away or to get closer. And most of us just want to be supportive as the environments and element of energy in elements around war zones are often disturbed. Um, Bombings that happen, fires that happen, these are very detrimental to the environment and disrupt the elemental energy greatly. And humans do this very well with pollution and not using very good ways of using energy, but that's very minimal. The environmental damage is very minimal to the way we would feel sensitive about it compared to war. War is more devastating.
Yes, understood. Um, I guess another question for you is humanity, from what we've been experiencing. Ardif, from his perspective, shared that we fully went into fourth density, I believe, in December of 2022. And it's widely believed that there is a shift in consciousness that's happening right now, that systems that are no longer working and maybe never have served for the highest good of the majority are being splintered and challenged now. Do you have any perspective on that? You've been with humanity and around humanity for millennia. Um, do you have any insight on how you perceive and where you see humanity being at in this process?
Yes, we work hand in hand with you. We live on the same planet with you, so it's hard to ignore these things as humans would experience. But yes, the transition of consciousness is a cycle, and the energy of your change of density and consciousness. Density is such a funny word to use to describe it, but it's true. Dimensions and consciousness both shift at the same time. So, yes, during that time, of the long cycle of that, we also made our own transitions through consciousness. We lived in the same dimension that Earth reptilians lived in, a fourth density, up until the point of less than 3 years ago. So yes, the energy is there, and the energy is relevant, and we experience the shift with you. And we also perceive that humans didn't shift as much as they could have at that time. So it's all very relevant. Many humans, such as the group of you that we speak to, had better shifts and larger shifts during that time. Um, so yeah, all of the things that happen with the systems of change, that's a very natural thing for the evolution cycle that you're at. Most beings on other planets that we've looked at and monitored or watched or assisted, and during those times, they simply started seeing those systems that they had that didn't work. War is not only a human thing or not only an earth thing. War happens everywhere. Um, on planets where the spectrum for the chances of war to break out happen. So it does happen on nearly 10% of all developing planets at that point. And at the level you're developed at, the wars should be winding down, if not already done. But this isn't happened now with humans because the connection process of learning to connect with each other has been slowed down by so many different external forces and so many outside energies. Um, Religious ideologies, financial ideologies, the same systems that you have are some of the systems that have slowed down the growth. So it's going to depend a very strong sense of human rejection of those systems or acceptance and continuation of those systems. That's going to be the decision maker. That's going to be what makes things either change or doesn't change. But we also have to recognize, and we are not placing insults towards humans or the earth, reptilian beings. You live in a system with beings who are taught by their own mentors and their own parents on how to manipulate an entire population of beings on a planet who are lower in the evolution line. So these beings already were able to affect so many of your decision making after the other races caused so many problems at the beginning. So at the very beginning of your journey, you had many races using your souls for their own purposes, using your evolution for their own purposes. You're like a gem rope that gets played tug of war with, okay? So that happened at the very beginning of your growth and development. So of course you were harmed and um, damaged and traumatized at that part of your evolution. And then that stopped because all of the beings involved knew it had to stop. And after that, then the human evolution itself was guided with human hands and reptilian hands. So, yes, there's still another force that pushed on you. And right now it's back to the human part and back to the human decisions. And this is the gift you're given for the last years, since 2021 in December. That's where the final breaking apart of any influence over humans left. This is why it's so chaotic, and this is what many beings won't tell you. Other beings say, yes, you're growing in dimension. Yes, you're growing in density. Yes, you're evolving. And you're coming to these places where things happen because energy moves and energy is shifting and energy is told to come to you. And yes, these things surface naturally. Yes, all of that's true, but it's also not as responsible for other races to tell you that that moment was the last time you would get manipulated outside of you, that only humans are responsible for manipulation now. Why do you think that humans have gotten so bad at manipulating you? Why is it so easy to see the manipulation now? Because the beings who have um, a million years of evolution above you stopped participating, and it's only humans now. And all humans are equally able to be intelligent. So now the intelligence of the forces that manipulated you dropped a lot with only humans participating. So of course, you're going to see the lies, you're going to see the manipulations. And now humans have the choices and chances to change it. And there may be some levels of interference happening from singular beings or small groups of beings, but it wasn't like it was just 3 years ago.
And do these races that I guess in some way took off the training wheels, stopped manipulating the embargo on the earth and humanity, or at least on humanity? I don't know if that the Alpha Draconian embargo and that agreement on the in the higher realms between the races impacted your race at all, but um, did the human race have any training for how to operate outside of that environment of active manipulation?
Yes, there were many thousands of years where humans were left alone, and that's been almost the last 13,000 years of your history. Besides the small groups of beings who worked with humans, so that was the training to start with. You had direct manipulation happening from physical interactions and physical gods that came down from the sky and told you what to do. That was very intense. That was very direct interference. And then the interference became subtle. It was still a larger force on the earth, but still most of that was humans. And so the human population became complicated from other humans interacting. And yes, the forces of the beings who are reptilians from Earth, yes, they played a part of that in teaching the humans, but most of that was also hands off. Most of that was told to humans thousands of years before that, and human tradition passed that along. So it wasn't as much of a direct force as it was an indirect, learned force. But there were still some beings that are reptilian that some humans would work with. And these are usually beings of higher influence, human beings that are higher with influence, higher stature of financial energy, or um, higher in just being able to have their reach of what they want or what they share given out to others. So yes, the energy of that, you have had practice and you have had a lot of practice compared to the excessive force and excessive manipulation that was done before that. I don't want humans to misconstrue what I'm saying either. The force of any beings, reptilians or other, could never cause as many problems for humans as other humans do with one another. But the forces were harder to interfere with other races who wanted to come help humans or save humans. That was where these beings who are draconian came into part and told other races, no, you can't go into Earth and mess with them anymore. They need to be left alone. Part of that was selfishness for them. Part of it was just feeling sorry for you because there's some relationship there genetically. Some of it was just them being tired of having to police the energy of Earth, even though the Earth reptilian beings were mostly responsible for policing external traffic from other planets. So yes, and these things didn't affect us nearly as long as it has with humans. We weren't here for the whole time that humans gone through this. You started your journey over 2 million years ago as human beings, and the last 13,000 are the remnants of pulled collective memories of the last times and parts of human history where these beings physically would interact with you. So you've had a long run without direct supervision, and that was mostly the practice.
Understood. So we actually have a lot more efficacy than maybe we give ourselves credit for.
Mm, yes.
Do you have any participation in the hybridization programs?
No, there's nothing directly we do with that. We don't want to participate with that, not because we don't see it as good or useful or positive for some humans, but that's also a layer of interference with some parts of your evolution, because it jumps forward a timeline where other beings can come. And some of us are very happy by that. Others of us work with hybrid races and connect with them to help them learn more about Earth and to help them learn more about humans. Some of us strongly denounce any hybridization with humans because they still believe that humans shouldn't be mixed with or co-created with that way. So there's no direct responsibility to help or to not help. But all of us stay clear of that because we have the neutrality in us. Even those who very frequently don't care for humans, or those that do strongly care for humans, all of us have that general belief in our ethics that hybridization is the same as a physical interference.
Thank you. Could you speak about, there's been a number of questions about creativity and expression, arts, painting, dancing. Do you have particular forms of artistic expression that you enjoy?
The sounds are art. The sounds are the best art. Music is what we create. This is why you see so many fairies with musical instruments in your history. You see the goat man with a flute, who is very much a earth-based fairy energy that works with earth. So music is ours, and there are actually influences in our music to very early music in your time periods between 1000 and 1400. A lot of the types of flutes and stringed instruments that were created are very similar to the sounds that we worked with and that we shared with humans, and we still share music with creativity. Many humans channel our energy in the music creativity aspect. But we are very musical. That is our biggest joy with creating, and some of that happens with actual instruments, some of it happens with the vocalization of our own race. Some of it happens with connecting to sounds that are found in nature and being able to use that along with our vocals and along with our instruments to create an ambience of music. Um, so there's a lot of the energy that's passed from there. Um, the being called art have also said that we're running short for time, so one or two questions could be left before I have to go.
Yes, is there a particular light language that you resonate with?
Light language in our perspective is the language of the cosmos. It's the language of the heart. So all light language we resonate with because it's started in the creative point from a musical sound aspect directly centered inside of the very center part of the heart. We know you understand chakras. Okay, so that will help you understand that if you put your chakras and laid them onto a musical scale, the center being the heart chakra, the center being the center of all of the energy involved with sound, fits us perfectly with our personality, with our traits, but also because we work with our heart very strong. So all light language works well with us. Many times that humans start tapping into their ancestors and working with more pure linguistics of the ancient languages, these energies are very strongly rooted in more pure sounds. So some of the Native American human descendants that pass on their chanting as a form of light language is one that, to my own taste, is personally favorite. And also the energy of the Isles, the Scottish British Isles, and the ancient Gregorian chanting that can be channeled as a light language also resonates personally with myself very strong. But all of them have resonance.
And I know we're almost out of time, but would it be appropriate, or would you have any interest or ability to share a short example of light language from you for the group that could help them connect with you?
It's an appropriate question. The connection part, we already had covered with that. It's going to be hard for us to give you a tool or something, some energy that will be good for everyone. But the human who we're working with doesn't have the proper or adequate sound to make within the throat that would represent clearly what we would say. So instead, if you want to have an energy that relates to that, go to a C and C flat sound, and between those two, go back and forth with 2-second intervals, back and forth between C and C flat of your standard music scale, and play those with 2 seconds. Try to use an instrument where reverberation could be had easily. Something perhaps as a horn, or something perhaps as a percussion, or something that allows a reverberation vibratory state, and go between those two notes per 2 seconds and repeat, and that will be very good. Yes.
Thank you so much for communicating with us, for sharing so much information, for answering the questions from the group. I know that they are very appreciative. Thank you for co-creating us with us throughout our history. And I know many folks, you mentioned that you've worked with many humans, and are you open to working with members of this group who reach out to you in your race?
Yes, any human here who wants to work with me, you have the feel of our whole race. It's the same feeling you have in your heart. And by calling the energy, which is the name or sound vibration, that's another way. But all of you would have to do it separately or differently, slightly different or a lot different. But just work to find me. I'll be there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll bring back this Ardif, and he will make a communication with all of you to disconnect from this human and appropriately say his own goodbyes to you, but goodbye to all of you.
Goodbye.
Well, back without hesitation, old delay to begin. This is Ardif, as all of you are aware. When you hear co-creation from other consciousnesses outside of myself and Treble Yitney, then of course the energy allows you to perceive the parts of your own consciousness never perceived previously, in the same way that co-creating with us in a direct way allows us to perceive those parts of your consciousness that are never perceived previous to that very moment. So you are growing, the Cherokee are growing, and we are growing as well. We congratulate all of you for your growth, and we thank you for the co-creation of growth as well. We wish to bid all of you adieu for this day, and of course, adieu, John.
Thank you, Ardif. Adieu.
Yes, of course, adieu. All right. How'd it go, brother?
It was a beautiful co-creation and communication. So thank you so much for bringing Ardif through, and I believe the name was Deonda, was the name of the representative from the fairy race.
Nice. That's wonderful, man. I'm glad to hear it went well, guys. For our Patreon people out there, I want to say thank you guys for being open for me sharing this, and also keep your eyes peeled on the 4th or 5th. I'm going to drop the link for you guys to fill out your form for the questions and answer, but also put your suggestions under that comment. That way we can put them up on the poll on the 10th and on the 15th. Vote from the 10th to the 15th, and whatever winner, we'll do exactly what we did today. Put an in-depth topic, get some questions going, and then on the 30th, all of the questions you guys send in, your one question for the month to Treb and or Ardif, we'll have that done on the 30th, guys. All of you who aren't on Patreon, you can always join us for 7 days for free to check it out and have access to 8 years of archives. If I were you and I was thinking about joining for free, I would wait to do it like 4 or 5 days before the 30th or 4 or 5 days before the 15th, depending on if you want to hear the topic. That way you would get a chance to vote on the topic that you want to win, or to send in a question and have the chance for your question to get asked to Treb or Ardif. But either way, if you guys want to join, it's there. And don't forget, everyone who signed up for the course, it's starting tomorrow is the official start day. Actually, it's midnight, so it can start any second now. Yeah, thank you all, and everyone who's not a part of Patreon. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight in the live chat, and everyone who didn't join the live chat and are listening to it at a later time. Thank you guys for hanging out and being a part of the ET Whisperer in general. I love you guys. Thank you too, brother, for being here tonight, for doing this yesterday and tonight. We had a really great time, and really appreciate your help and the energy you put in, but also just in general for the ET Whisperer. You do so much for all of us. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Well, I enjoyed myself too, brother. And thank all of you guys. I love you guys very much. I see the chat going wild. Looking forward to starting the course tomorrow. Me too. Me too. All right, guys. I love you guys. I'm getting off because I got to eat a little and get to bed. It's already midnight here in Michigan. We've had a full day, crazy week. All of you on Patreon heard the story I shared with you yesterday about crazy, but yeah, it's definitely time. All right, guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks again, brother. And we'll see you guys all on Patreon. Keep an eye peeled on the 4th or 5th. And get your suggestions in, get your questions for Treb and Ardif in, and on the 10th we'll vote, and the 15th and the 30th we'll do our channelings. Love you guys. We'll see you next week, next month, next year, whenever you're tuning in. Appreciate it. And again, brother, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, guys. Love you. Goodbye.